Back in the 1990s, I worked as a housekeeper at a high-end motel in Washington, D.C. My name is Seal, a refugee from Vietnam, and though I didn't speak much English, I earned respect for my diligence. Guests would leave me kind notes, appreciating my work. But one guest, Mr. M, stood out. He checked into the most expensive suite on the top floor, but unlike others, he forbade anyone from entering his room. For over a month, no one saw the inside of that room. Every knock was met with a polite refusal, but behind his smile was something sinister. When he finally left, no one saw him go. His name disappeared from records like he never existed. Yet his room, now vacant, needed cleaning, and I was assigned to the task. The moment I opened the door, a nauseating stench clawed at my throat. The suite was destroyed, overturned furniture, stained sheets, and the air reeking of decay. It came from the closet. My hands trembled as I approached. Inside, an unassuming box waited. I opened it, and immediately wished I hadn't. Inside was a tangled mass of hair, soaked in dried blood. I stumbled back, horrified. The police swarmed the motel soon after. Mr. M, a ghost of a man with a fake identity responsible for the murder of a woman. That box, it held the only part of her left. I left that motel for good, but that smell, that image, it's burned into my soul, haunting me even now. The rain had been pouring for hours, drenching the highway as my headlights cut through the sheets of water. It was late, far too late to be driving alone on an empty road, but I had no choice. My eyes felt heavy, the lines on the road blurring, and I knew I had to stop soon. That's when I saw it, a flickering neon sign barely visible through the downpour. Midnight Motel, it read, though the last T sputtered and buzzed as if it were on its last breath. There were no other cars in the parking lot when I pulled in. It looked abandoned, like no one had stayed there in years. The rain made the cracked, faded paint on the building seem to weep, but I was too exhausted to care about appearances. I just needed a bed for the night. I grabbed my bag and dashed through the rain to the small office. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of mildew, dampness clinging to the old wood paneling. A bell on the counter let out a weak, almost sorrowful jingle when I tapped it. From the back room, a figure emerged. The man behind the desk was tall, gaunt, with skin that seemed too tight for his face. His eyes were sunken deep into his skull, and when he smiled, it was a smile of someone who hadn't had a reason to in a long time. Room for the night? His voice was raspy, like it hadn't been used in weeks. I nodded, uneasy. Cash only, he muttered, not bothering to ask for any details. He slid an old-fashioned key across the counter, the number 13 hanging from the keychain, tarnished and dull. My stomach knotted. Room 13. I trudged through the rain to my room at the far end of the lot. The wind howled, rattling the windows of the motel. The door creaked as I unlocked it, opening with a groan like a dying thing. Inside, the room smelled worse than the office, damp, musty, as though no one had been inside for years. The wallpaper was peeling, yellowed with age, and the carpet was worn thin. The bed, small and sagging in the middle, was barely made up. I threw my bag on the floor and sat on the edge of the mattress. The springs groaned under my weight, and for a moment I thought the entire bed would collapse. I lay down, too tired to worry about the eerie atmosphere. But sleep didn't come easily. The wind outside whistled through the cracks in the window frame, and the rain tapped against the glass like impatient fingers. There was something else, too, something beneath the natural sounds of the storm, a soft, rhythmic tapping like footsteps. I bolted upright. The noise stopped. I told myself it was the wind, or maybe the old pipes in the building, but the uneasy feeling that had started in the office grew stronger. I checked my phone, hoping to distract myself. No signal, of course. I lay back down, trying to calm my racing heart, but that's when I heard it again. Footsteps, slow, deliberate. This time they were closer. I sat up again, my eyes scanning the dark room. The sound was coming from outside the door. Someone was walking up and down the corridor. The air in the room suddenly grew colder, so cold I could see my breath in the dim light. My pulse quickened as the footsteps stopped directly outside my door. I waited, heart pounding in my chest, but there was only silence. No knock, no voice, just a deep, suffocating stillness. I stood, creeping toward the door, the old wooden floorboards creaking under my weight. I pressed my ear to the door. Nothing. I took a deep breath and, against my better judgment, opened it. The corridor was empty. I exhaled shakily and stepped back inside. But the moment I shut the door, something changed. The atmosphere felt thicker, heavier, like the air was pressing in around me. The smell of rot filled the room, sickly sweet and overpowering, as if something had been decaying in the walls for years. I grabbed my bag, ready to leave, but then the lights flickered, plunging the room into total darkness. My heart leapt into my throat as I fumbled for my phone, desperate for any light. In the brief flash of the screen, I saw someone standing in the corner of the room. It was a figure, tall and thin, with limbs too long, too distorted to be human. Its head was cocked at an unnatural angle, and I could just make out the hollow, empty pits where eyes should have been. My breath caught in my throat as I stared, paralyzed. The figure didn't move. It didn't need to. Its presence alone filled the room with a suffocating terror. Then slowly its head turned toward me, its mouth stretching into an unnatural, toothless grin. I backed away, my body trembling, but the figure moved closer, its steps silent, gliding toward me like it was floating. I screamed, throwing open the door and running down the hallway, not daring to look back. I fumbled with my keys, my hands shaking so badly that I dropped them in the mud. I scrambled into the car, slamming the door and locking it as quickly as I could. As I sped out of the parking lot, tires skidding on the wet asphalt, I glanced in the rearview mirror. The figure was standing in the doorway of room 13, watching me, its twisted silhouette barely visible in the flickering neon light. I didn't stop driving until I reached the next town, but even then, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was still watching me, waiting. When I tried to call the motel later that night just to make sure it was real, the number was disconnected. No listing, no sign of a midnight motel anywhere near the area I had driven through. It was as if the place had never existed at all. But I know what I saw, and I will never forget the grin of that faceless figure watching me escape, for now.